Hi, this is Colin from the History Pilgrim. I hope you've been enjoying my videos and I'd be interested to hear your comments. Be sure to like and share with a friend. I have another interesting historical video. I hope you enjoy. Located in the easternmost settlement of North America, where cold Atlantic winds blow and herds of caribou outnumber humans, is Gander, a settlement which strangely exists because it is not near anything. The town, with a tiny population which had always been familiar with pilots, gained worldwide attention on September 11, 2001, when the US airspace was shut down and became a landing point for countless transatlantic aircraft. Gander is located in the middle of Newfoundland, which is a Canadian island already known for its extreme remoteness and dense forests. The closest major settlement is over 250 miles away and only connected by a highway, which feels less like a road and more like a ribbon laid across endless spruce trees. Even on a good day, the drive can take over 4 hours. On a bad day, which is much of the year, the endless snow and dangerous remoteness can make the car ride terrifying. Newfoundland itself is one of the most remote regions in North America. It is roughly the size of Ireland, yet it's home to less people than many neighborhoods in Toronto. Once you leave Gander town limits, the landscape quickly shifts to open forests, where cell service dies and spotting another car is like spotting a rare animal. To the north and west lie hundreds of miles of forests, dotted only with tiny fishing villages, many of which are only accessible by boat. Even off the island, the nearest true city, St. John's, is only reachable by a 6-hour ferry ride across the open North Atlantic, followed by another long car ride. In this sense, Gander exists in a kind of geographical solitude, too central to be coastal, too inland to feel connected, and too far from a major metropolitan area to ever feel anything but remote. This extreme isolation is exactly what made Gander so important in the early days of aviation. Its wide open space provided a rare stretch of land, where a massive airfield could be built without displacing anyone or anything. There were no dense neighborhoods, only flat terrain, quiet skies, and miles upon miles of untouched wilderness. By sheer geographical coincidence, this remote patch of land became the perfect stepping stone for planes crossing the Atlantic, at a time where aircraft could not make the trip without stopping. In the 1930s, when airplanes were still in their infancy, airplane engines were fragile and temperamental, and the idea of crossing the Atlantic without stopping felt unthinkable. Yet the demand for transatlantic air travel was growing, particularly for connecting North America to Europe. The Canadian government, working alongside British aviation authorities, identified a flat space near the town of Gander. Its location was ideal to be used as a stopover point for long-distance flights. In the late 1930s, Gander Airfield became the most crucial stop for maintenance and refueling of airplanes crossing the Atlantic. With the outbreak of World War II, the town suddenly became a major staging ground for connecting the aviation activity of Europe and North America. The town, previously isolated and quiet, suddenly found itself at the center of international military strategy. The isolation of Gander became a tremendous asset during the war, as German bombers could never reach this far. As such a huge number of British pilots regularly passed through here, it became known as one of the most famous places in Canada, despite the town having a population only in the low thousands. Gander played a crucial role in ferrying aircraft assembled in the US to England to assist in the war effort. After World War II, the airfield in Gander remained crucial, as the technological constraints of the era severely limited the distance airplanes could travel. By 1947, Gander ranked as one of the busiest airports on the planet. Diplomats, military troops, and wealthy travelers passed through the airport, traveling between the United States and Europe. Into the 1950s, passengers from around the world crossed through Gander. This made this tiny remote settlement on the edge of North America one of the most cosmopolitan places on Earth. This period was not to last, as the popularization of jet engines allowed jet airliners to cross the North Atlantic in one go from cities in the US. While the jet age stripped Gander of its role as a commercial stopover point, it did not make the airport completely obsolete. Even as jet airliners crossed the Atlantic without needing to refuel, Gander continued to be used as an emergency landing spot for mechanical or medical emergencies of aircraft crossing the Atlantic. Gander's identity began to shift away from the international crowds of earlier decades and became a quieter, more urgent location for aviation. Fire trucks, pre-positioned along runways for precautionary landings, ambulance crews waiting in the cold Newfoundland night, and staff trained in aircraft mechanics became the new identity of the town. In the entire history of aviation, not one date was more chaotic than September 11th, 2001. A day when all the rules of orderly U.S. aviation were instantly rendered useless. The complete shutdown of U.S. airspace was ordered by the Federal Aviation Administration. In half a century of commercial jet travel, nothing had prepared the U.S. for the sight of its entire airspace shut down by design. In the chaotic minutes after it became clear that multiple aircraft had been hijacked, the Federal Aviation Administration entered a state of panic. Controllers in New York City, Boston, Cleveland, and beyond attempted to intercept incomplete radar returns in unresponsive planes. As confusion deepened, the choice was made to shut down the U.S. airspace. As the magnitude of the attacks became clear, the Federal Aviation Administration issued an order to ground all flights over the U.S. With countless planes bound for the eastern seaboard, Gander played a crucial role. Over the course of several hours, 38 wide-body jets and dozens of smaller aircraft were diverted to this remote settlement, which doubled the population within hours. The sheer scale of this diversion presented immense challenges. Aircraft which had been diverted had limited fuel but required topping off for their eventual departures. The airfield's fuel trucks were designed for standard operations, not a sudden influx of 38 jumbo jets, all demanding attention at once. The infrastructure of this small town suddenly had to double down entirely on this task, on a scale more similar to a large metropolis. After hours of being trapped on airplanes, the task of disembarking passengers began. Luggage intended for destinations now unreachable had to be organized and tracked carefully. Travelers were slowly sorted. Families with children and those with medical conditions were prioritized for accommodations first. Single adults and small groups were assigned communal spaces in schools, churches, and community centers. Transportation quickly became an obstacle. Buses, vans, and private vehicles from nearby towns formed a shuttle service moving passengers to their assigned lodgings. Some residents opened their homes, offering clothes and home-cooked meals. Local restaurants, bakeries, and community centers had to feed thousands of people on a short notice. School cafeterias became major communal dining sites, and armies of local volunteers worked tirelessly around the clock. For the residents of Gander and nearby communities, the sudden doubling of population was surreal. Community centers, churches, and school gymnasiums were full of complete strangers from around the world. Gender-separated sections of cots lined large rooms, meals were prepared in bulk in schools, and vans and buses shuttled people through roads which were normally entirely empty. For almost all the travelers, this unexpected stay in Newfoundland was the first encounter with the culture of the island. Travelers from nations such as Germany, England, and France, and throughout the U.S. found themselves experiencing traditional small-town Canadian culture. This included home-cooked meals, storytelling, and local traditions that were entirely foreign to them. Many passengers were struck with the friendliness of strangers who opened their homes to them. The extraordinary human response to the diversions inspired the book, The Day the World Came to Town, which documents the experiences of both locals and travelers during those weird few days. Being stranded in a foreign town under extraordinary circumstances created a bond between passengers and residents. People who normally would have had nothing to do with one another, businessmen bound for New York City, families from Europe, and airline crews found themselves sharing meals, sleeping quarters, and the same logistical uncertainties. The connections made between the stranded travelers and locals led to people from Gander being invited to come and visit passengers from Europe, Asia, and various parts of the U.S. in their home countries courtesy of them. In conclusion, the story of Gander is one of human adaptability in the face of crisis. What began as a diversion of over 6,000 stranded people quickly became a testament to the capacity of a small town to respond to the unexpected with generosity and calm. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to stay tuned for more history videos. Sincerely, the History Pilgrim.